Hi, it's Dorothy guiding with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd online shop, and I'll be creating a double page layout featuring the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Winter Woods collection, along with a few die sets from Tim Holtz. My process takes a few twists and turns. In fact, I wanted to toss this one in the trash bin last night. Instead, I turned on my camera this morning, made a few changes, and this is the result. I will talk you through the entire process, tell you where I went wrong, how I could have avoided it, and what I changed to create a layout I liked. For that reason, this video is longer than my typical videos. Here is the material I'll be using. I have paper and embellishments from the Vintage Winter Woods collection and the alphanumeric and tree line die sets from Tim Holtz. The last time I checked, these products were available at the Scrapbook Nerd, so I'll put a link to the shop along with the products I use in the description box below. Before jumping in, I want to tell you about something fun that's happening at the Scrapbook Nerd. The shop will be celebrating its 10th anniversary, February 24th to 26th, 2023. There will be a mini crop in the Facebook group with challenges, gift card giveaways on all social media platforms, and a sale at the shop. So I hope you join us for the fun this weekend. I will put a bunch of links in the description box below for that as well. So let's jump right in and create a double page layout. I did a bit of preparation in advance. I prepared a frame style foundation for 2 pages with 6 sheets of paper. I'm showing you I rounded the corners on the white cardstock, and I also gutted 4 of the 6 papers. Now I will put a link to a tutorial below where I explain how I do that. I'm showing you I have 7 photos. 5 of them are matted in wood grain paper that I gutted from behind the foundation page. Here are the other papers I have. I have the collection pack from this collection along with the solids paper pack. In this folded up piece of paper, I'm showing you the paper that I gutted from behind my foundation page. I've used almost all of this collection already this month, so when I needed that aqua tone on tone paper, I was missing some. So what I did was I looked in my stash for another vintage pale collection, and I went to 49 and Market and I found something almost identical. The paper weight is different, but the match was nearly perfect. Also, I showed you the rest of the paper I'll be using. I'm showing you my embellishment tray and these 2 dies that I'll be digging into a little bit later on. The first thing I'm going to do is cut into these papers, and I'm going to be creating a layered photo mat / shelf that expands across the 2 pages. Also, I will put measurements for all of this on the screen a little bit later on when I place them on top of the foundation page. What I'm going to do right now, as soon as I finish cutting this piece of paper, is cut myself out a jumbo semicircle. So what I'm cutting it out with is the custom cutting system from Creative Memories. I'm using the jumbo circle with the blue blade on the inside. And what I will do right now is just add a bit of ink to all of these pieces of paper. So the ink I'm using is Morning Mist by VersaFine Claire. Now I'm not going to make you watch all of it, but I do add ink to all of these pieces of paper, and then what you're going to see is that I've divided them up for page 1 and page 2, so the left side and the right side. What I'm going to do right now is just place them on the foundation page to show you how I will be adhering them. So that striped paper is a shelf kind of in the middle towards the bottom that spans the 2 pages. It goes entirely across the right page, but not quite across the left. I have a narrow border on top of it and that semicircle on the left-hand page. Now with that narrow border for the left-hand page, I'm just notching the end of that border, which is just a little bit different than creating a banner. So all I used was a 1 3/8 of an inch circle punch. Now what I'm going to do is adhere all of these page parts on top of the foundation page. So you can see the border that I'm adhering right now on the right page, it's actually a little bit longer because I'm just starting it on top of that white paper, so it's not quite 12 inches long. My measurements on the screen are for the trimmed pieces, but what I did here was I adhered the 12-inch border strips on the page. I let them kind of overlap, and then you're going to see once it's adhered, I just place it in my trimmer and then trim it away. Once I do that, you'll see me trim it in a moment. What I am going to do is adhere the pieces onto the left-hand page. And what I will do to make it easier is add a low tack tape. I'm going to tape these two pages together temporarily and just use the border that I adhered on the right page as a guide to place the border on the left page. It just makes things a lot easier. And then, of course, I will adhere that semicircle that creates that layered photo mat over on the left-hand page. And now I'm ready to place my photo. So you're going to see me do that in a minute. What I will be doing is putting a vertical and a horizontal photo on the left-hand page and then a row of vertical photos on the right page. Now I have two extra photos I want to incorporate. So what I'm going to create right now is a photo flap. What I did was cut myself out a piece of plain white cardstock, the same width of that horizontal photo with mat, which is 5 1/4 inches wide. But what I did was I cut it twice as long. So the photo with mat is 3 3/4 inches long. I cut that white cardstock twice as long at 7 1/2 inches, scored it in the middle, made myself a little book, adhered the photo with mat on top of it, and on the inside I'm adding 2 extra photos. People ask me all the time if I cut a hole in my page protector so people can open up. No, I don't. The reason why I don't is most often when I create these photo flaps, it's simply to store extra photos. All the photos necessary for the story are visible, and on that photo flap, I do add a tab. So if the viewer really wants to see what's inside, they have to remove the page protector, and I'm totally okay with that. You can see I've moved on to adhering my photos. So I adhered that row over on the right-hand page. Now I am adhering my photos on the left-hand page. The adhesive I use for my page parts and most of my photos is that Easy Runner tape runner there that you see that's red. I love it because it's permanent, but it gives me wiggle room. And that means that if I have to lift up pieces to add layers or embellishments, I have a little bit of time. The adhesive I'm using right now behind this photo flap is red line tape, and that is way stronger. And when I create interactive elements on a page like this photo flap, I always use a heavy duty tape just because the piece is going to be manipulated and I want it to be extra, extra strong. However, that tape, I don't have any wiggle room. Once I adhere it down, it is stuck, which is why you see me being very careful right now. I want to make sure it's straight before I really press down on it. So my photos are down, my page parts are down, and now I want to talk about title and journaling. So I know my title is going to go on top of that row of photos on the right-hand page, and on the right-hand page as well is where I will be putting my journaling. So what you see me doing now is cutting out with circle nesting dies a piece of graph paper along with that blue polka dot paper. Now that blue polka dot paper is the same paper I used to create the jumbo circle on the left page. I'm adding a bit of ink to that like I did on the left page, then adhering the photo, or I should say the journaling box on top of it. So what I'm doing here is basically repeating that semicircle shape that's already on the left page on the right page. Now what I want to do is talk about my title. So I have these dies here from Tim Holtz. They're alphanumeric dies, something like that, and they are about 2.5 inches tall. Super, super beautiful. Now you can see I cut some out in advance and I had them as stickers. Basically, I created stickers with them, and I'm going to show you how I did that. My title will be Bitten by a Duck. Right now I have bitten by a, so I have to do the word duck. So I'm going to make sticker letters here. The first thing I do is take my letters and determine the size of paper I need. So once I know that, I trim down my paper because I don't want to waste paper, and I certainly don't want to waste adhesive. Now I'm taking my trimmed paper, putting it on these Be Creative tape sheets, and I'm cutting myself out a piece of that adhesive. Now what I'm going to do is back my paper with this adhesive. So there's two coverings on it. I'm removing one of them, and then I'm backing my paper with it. And once that's done, I'm going to run it through my Big Shot with my alpha dies, and out will pop self-adhesive letters. Now while I'm doing this, I want to talk about what's going through my head. At this point, I'm seeing my title, which is in that pale aqua blue paper from behind the foundation page, and I'm not liking it. I place it on wax paper, I place it on the page, and at this point, I'm not liking it. It's too pale, and I'm literally telling myself, Dorothy, it would look better in the wood grain paper. But I've already cut the letters out. They are all backed in adhesive, and then I'm telling myself, don't worry about it. You can make it work. So instead of changing my letters here and following my gut feeling, I move forward and continue with the page. And that is the mistake I'm making right now. I knew I would have liked it better in those wood grain letters if I had cut them out in wood grain, but instead I decided to move forward, and I told myself I could make it work. And what that ended up resulting in was a bunch of other decisions of me trying to fix what I didn't like. So in retrospect, I wished at this point that I had just kind of, sucked up my loss and made other letters in the wood grain paper, but I didn't. I kept this kind of slow because I really wanted to explain this part of the process, because in retrospect, I know that it would have been much easier moving forward had I followed my gut feeling. Nevertheless, we are going to move forward with the process. So I have it on wax paper. I've got it on top. I'm not going to adhere my title or journaling yet because I will be adding embellishments around it. I'm showing you my embellishment tray. I have ephemera, chipboard, and self-adhesive brads, but they're all kind of small. And when I create embellishment clusters, I like to start my embellishment clusters with bigger pieces. So what I'm going to do is cut out some trees with this tree line die from Tim Holtz. So once again, I'm using paper that I gutted from behind my foundation page, and I'm going to cut myself out a bunch of these trees. So I do, I think, 2 on camera just to show you how it cuts. It cuts quite well. I really love Tim Holtz dies. Any of them that I have, and I have quite a few of them, the quality is excellent. So you're going to see I do use a little poker tool to poke out a few of the details because there's some little holes in these trees, but it does pop out quite nicely. So I'm going to cut myself out another one. Then off camera, I end up cutting a few more, and you're going to see how I use them as my base to all of my embellishment clusters. Anyway, I feel like it's kind of slow here and I have nothing to say, but like I mentioned, around my title there, I really wanted to get the point across. I should have followed my gut feeling. I'm showing you all of the embellishments, the trees that I cut out, the ephemera, along with the chipboard. I have stickers and those self-adhesive brads. So what I'm going to do is create 3 embellishment clusters, 2 main ones, one in the bottom right by my journaling box, another one in the kitty corner up above that photo on the left, kind of around that circle. And in the end, I come in and work on a small one in and around the title. So you can see for the journaling box, I have the journaling box there. I have 2 layers of trees. One goes behind the journaling box. One of them kind of overlaps the journaling box. In the opposite, in the top left, I added more or less 2 rows of trees there. It is tone on tone, but the trees actually add texture and interest in that area. Now I'm coming in with both and I'm adding some snowflakes here. That's from the ephemera pack. So basically I'm making the embellishment clusters different, but I'm adding repetition in each one of them. I add a little snowflake in and around that title there, which I still don't like, by the way, but I'm trying to add a little bit of emphasis to it by adding that snowflake. Now I'm going into the sticker sheet and I find this word sticker that says Hello Winter. And when I see that mauve color there, I'm thinking, great, I need a little bit of color. And the reason why I'm thinking I need color is because it's lacking color up by the title. What that ends up leading me to do with that purple word winter there is I end up searching for other purple elements to repeat in my embellishment clusters. Anyway, and that does cause me a bit of problem as well. At this point, I can't find anything, so I'm trusting myself, I'm moving forward, and I'm just adhering the trees, the journaling box, the snowflakes. I do end up putting that little word sticker there at the bottom. I also add another sticker with a bird on it. The word sticker, I end up popping it up with a bit of foam adhesive, so I backed it a bit with I backed it a little bit with cardstock and then popped it up. And then what I will do is move on to the title. And when you see me adhere the title, I'm going to show you a technique that is useful, even though I don't like my title. It's on wax paper for a reason, because I want to play around with placement. And I want it to be centered, so when I find the placement of my title, I actually take a pencil and I make a little tiny mark at the beginning of the title and at the end. I want to know where to start my title and where to end my title. And when I'm adhering them, I start on the far left and I start adhering my title where I want it to begin. I'm also using my T-square here because these are really tall, skinny letters and I want to keep them straight. But before continuing with that first word, I skip ahead to the end, so on the far right, where I want my title to end. So I do a few letters there, and then essentially what I do is I fill in the letters in between. So at least by doing it this way, I know where my title starts and I know where my title ends. And by doing it this way, by doing the first word first and then the last word next, I can play with the spacing of the words in between. It's great when you're adhering long titles. Now I'm moving on to the left page. So I'm adding a few rows of those trees behind the photo. Again, this is why I like using the tape that I do, because I'm able to lift that photo without ripping my paper at this point. I'm coming in with those snowflakes there. Some of them I am popping up on foam adhesive. And then what I want to do is come in with some finishing touches. So I want to repeat that mauve that's in the word winter, and I'm scrambling, looking through everything. I find a few pieces. I don't particularly like them. Eventually I find a little heart there that I really quite like. I tuck in another piece of ephemera. There's already a bird down by that word winter in the bottom right. I find another little bird. I put it in the top left. Still not liking the color of my title, by the way. Still trying to make this layout have a little bit more, I don't know, pizzazz, I guess. Anyway, I continue doing this, and now I'm moving in with the self-adhesive brad. So I'm adding a little self-adhesive brad in the middle of each one of these snowflakes. I'm going back to the sticker sheet. At this point, I'm going to add a little tab to that photo flap. The stickers are actually perfect for that. There are all these little tickets and tabs, so I just put one little tab in, and then since the back side of it was adhesive, I put another one on the back side, so the two adhesive pieces were stuck together, but that makes a perfect little tab for my photo flap. Still looking for something mauve to put there in the top left corner. I find a little word thing that says "it's so chilly" or something like that. I stick it at the top of the photo, but really I do not like my layout. So after I stopped filming, I ended up adding a few more snowflakes, and I moved one of the snowflakes down in the title that was up there. Ended up ripping the letter D. That's why you don't see a D in the word duck. So finally I decided to just bite the bullet and cut myself out some letters in that wood grain paper, which is what my gut was telling me to do when I was placing that title on the page. So I definitely like it better. Also, when I was kind of playing around with things last night, I ended up removing that word sticker at the bottom with winter, and I ended up ripping the tree line that was there. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick down this title, and I'm quite literally adhering it on top of the letters that are already there. So this is making placement really, really easy. However, I decide not to adhere the letter D at this point because my gut was telling me that I needed one underneath. All of the other ones had 2 layers of letters, so I will do that after I finish filming here. This time I decided to listen to my gut. Now I'm kind of correcting that ripped tree line that I did in the bottom right, so I'm just kind of moving around the snowflakes a little bit there, and that actually adds a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more weight to that cluster, because now I actually have a 3rd row of trees, and that makes me think that I want to add a little bit more weight to that cluster in the kitty corner. So I actually add another row of trees there, and you can see me just trimming it down. I don't want the square edge to be sticking out. I just want it to be kind of like a forest of trees. And even though it's tone on tone, it has a lot of texture there, so it does add some visual interest, and I'm happier with that. I'm happier that it has a little bit more, I don't know, weight to that cluster. So at this point I have some trimmed off pieces of trees, and I'm thinking of adding a repetition, very, very small, up by the title. I don't want to adhere it at this point because I want to fix that letter D first, but I think I'm giving you the idea, and you will see what it looks like in the still shots in the end. And I end up just keeping one snowflake up there by the title. That's it. So I have a repetition of the trees and the snowflakes, but it's much, much smaller. And I definitely have a title that is more pleasing to my eye. I'm going into the stickers again, and I'm looking at that sticker at the bottom that has winter in that mauve. Now again, I put that there because I thought my layout needed color. Now at this point, I switch it up for this one that says Winter Wonders, and I like that it's in that dark color more. Again, I think it gives more weight to that cluster. I just like having that dark color in the title as well as in the embellishment cluster. So I end up going with Winter Wonders. I will be popping that up on foam adhesive, and there was that little mauve heart that was in the original cluster there that I did end up keeping, because if you look in the kitty corner, there is that word there in mauve that says "it's chilly" or something like that. Anyway, that just gives a little nod to the mauve that's in the opposite corner. But that is it, my finished layout. Off camera, I added my journaling. Anyway, I hope I've inspired you to do some scrapbooking. My advice when creating, follow your gut. Had I done that and changed my title color earlier in the process, I would have avoided other choices along the way that resulted in a layout that I didn't like. And sometimes you just have to walk away and return with fresh eyes. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up if you did. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the Scrapbook Nerd YouTube channel, we would be thrilled if you did. The same thing for my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec. Don't forget to check out all the festivities at the Scrapbook Nerd, February 24th to 26th, 2023. Facebook challenges, gift card giveaways, and a sale. What's not to love? Anyway, you will find links below. Take care if you're still here. Thanks for hanging on, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.